Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is your monthly speaker chat, Women's Speakers Association. I'm Tracy Eman, and I'm excited today to have Angela Todd with us. Now, Angela is just trying to make her way back from her Thanksgiving Day celebrations because she got stuck in that snow squalls and what have you along the way. So we are actually, she's in a cafe. So there might be some background noise, but we just invite you to ignore it. We're just going to enjoy this. And because I know that this kind of information is so important. Like Angela and I've had talks in the past, and it's just incredible what she is doing and how important it is for us to, be sharing history. So I'm just going to read a little bit here just to set the framework. And you'll notice that Angela's muted at the moment, but she'll pop in a second. And I'm just going to make sure we got speaker view going on there. Okay, actually, I'm going to go back to gallery. Keep both of us there. So today our topic is we can change history with our voices and our stories. And it's definitely something that, I've talked to my grandparents and tried to grab as much information as possible, but I put it in places all over the place. And I would love to be able to pull it all into one area. And I think that's one of the things that we're going to touch on today. But just that whole idea that if we document, if we get our words onto paper, then it does become part of history. And that's so cool. Yeah. All right, I'm going to get you on here in just, oh, where'd you go? Sorry, you didn't go anywhere.
Still here, okay.
I'm like, oh no, I've lost you. I don't know what happened on my computer. Just half my stuff just shut down. Okay, so I'm just going to read your bio and then we'll get started with the questions. So Angela Todd says she's always been that girl talking to little old ladies in the grocery store, reading a parade of women's biographies, autobiographies, and history, always looking for where the women are and what their stories are. She worked 18 years in an academic science archive, and now she's on a mission to capture all women's stories, especially those stories usually relegated to the sidelines of history, like women workers, activists, community groups, and everyday people. So oral history interviews and shaping the papers that you already have into an archive through preservation and cataloging are the easiest ways to save your stories from a historical perspective. That's fabulous. I love it.
So do I.
I know you're so passionate about it. Like, look at the smile. I mean, it is so cool what you do. And it's really interesting too, because with Women's Speakers Association and our Voices journal, right? Like that, it's that whole idea of getting your story out in paper. You're becoming part of history, and you can do it. And I mean, let's just kind of delve further into this. So go ahead, Angela. I'm going to ask you, you can turn off your mute. We'll go with it. So how do you help women tell and preserve their stories?
So I specialize in two branches, primarily oral history, where we sit and talk and I record and transcribe your words. Or I can gather your paper, you can gather your papers, we can gather your papers, and then I can make sure they're mended, preserved, and cataloged so that ideally the two things work together. Not everybody has the inclination to do both things, but either separately is better than nothing. So the papers serve as a kind of tangible evidence to the stories that you tell.
Okay.
Or conversely, the stories help lead us through your papers.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Like, how did you get started with this though? Like, really? Like, I know that's not really our question, but it's
God,
like,
I know, but it's a crazy story because I was actually in grad school at Carnegie Mellon and I wanted to do the history of science. So I went over to the head of the botanical library and said, could I do an independent study with you? And he said, sure. And after a couple of years, he said, we need help in the archives. Do you want a job? And then 20 years later, I was still there.
oh my goodness. That's fabulous. It was definitely meant to be. And it's so important to get the stories out there. So,
Yeah.
and that's really leads into our next question. So why is it important to share our stories as women?
So I have a two-part answer to this one. And first, I see a big gap in history, an important one. And you know who's in the gap? Women, women of color, poor women, activists, non-professionals, professionals sometimes. But as I, excuse me, as I move on, having left the archives in a big university, I realize most entrepreneurs that break out on their own aren't going to leave a record unless they do it. You have
Yes.
to make a point to do it. Otherwise, I feel like this is such a great moment for women. We're having this exodus where we're all, not all, but we're, a lot of us are leaving corporate, leaving dead end jobs, leaving abusive jobs, and making our own work and lives. And so now it's more important than ever that we keep track of ourselves and leave a record of what we've done. Because although the big university I worked for will certainly have records of me, and I know they've got pictures of me and whatever. After I left there, I don't want to drop off the face of the earth, and I don't want y'all to either.
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is that there is a gap in history, and women are in it. And the second thing is, and this kind of shouldn't have, but it kind of surprised me, is a lot of women that I talk to think, oh, this is such a great idea. I love what you're doing. Oh, but not me, not my life. I'm not interesting. I'm not important. And so that's been an obstacle. I feel like I still need to keep working on how I get, I don't know, bring them into my tribe or get over that or whatever. So I've been talking about it a lot more, because the first step really is knowing that you're worthy. And I don't think it's about self-worth. I think we're schooled as women or as working class people or middle class people to think I'm not historical.
Mm,
So it's kind of a big jump for a lot of people.
yeah. Yeah, I can totally see that. I'm just gonna jump into our Facebook page for a second and
Oh,
see
good, good, good.
what I can see there. Anybody that is watching us right now or watching this on replay, please go ahead and let us know. Have you shared your story? And if not, what's stopping you? I think that would be an interesting, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm
Definitely.
going here. I see it's live. All right. So just give us a shout out in there if you are watching us right now. If not, join in later. I've got extra video going on here. Hang on a second. There we go. All right. We're going to continue with our questions. So question number 3. As a speaker, where is a good place to start to preserve my message?
So this answer has three parts. They just get bigger and bigger every time. But they're all linked. Your path, I think, is important, and that ties into what I was just saying about if you've left corporate or academics or whatever. If you've been a stay-at-home mom with a side hustle, or if you've been, I don't know, if you've switched fields. I mean, all those things are historically important, because this is such a, I don't know, volatile, I don't know if that's the right word, but it's such an amazing time of growth for women. So your path, your why, what's pushed you to break out of what you were doing, or to gradually ease into doing a new thing. Not everybody has that kind of disruption, right? So your path, your why, that might be a personal experience, or a mission that you've always had, or children, or helping women, or fitness, or whatever the why is, and your mission, like what your goal is going forward. And the three things coming together, I mean, we could sit and talk about it, and or whatever, and then to gather the papers around that narrative would be easy once you kind of lay it out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm going for easy. Everybody can do this.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's, I mean, because you think about it, right? When we move from one part of our life to the next, like I was in corporate for 15 years and then I was wanting to be home with my kids. And then I'm like, okay, I got to do something. Am I going back? But that is a history, right? Like how
Yes.
you went, how your life got to where it is now is never a straight path. It's all over the place, right? And it's interesting to people because they can relate to you.
Yes, and historians want to know. I mean, from our perspective, we think, well, here's my path and here's my plan. But if people are coming to write history, they want all the documentation. They're not going to know to look for us.
Mm, yes.
So, for example, I went to an archivist conference, I don't know, a decade ago, and one archivist stood up and said the craziest request she ever got was somebody looking for teen girls' journals if the girls had braces.
Oh,
Well, nobody kept track of that, so it was a matter of years to kind of watch and collect. And the same with all of us and our stories,
yeah.
right? So Tracy, you shared that you were in corporate, stayed home, and went back to work, and I
Yeah.
think that's not completely unusual, but the specificity of how you did that and where you worked and when you went back, that's data that people may want to know,
Right.
when they're either making a history of women or making a history of work. So I feel like there are ways that we can't even anticipate how important our stories will be.
Well, and building on that too is I know that Gail Watson, Women Speakers Association president, one of the reasons that we did Voices is that she was helping her son with a project, and they were looking for history on women, and there just really wasn't hardly any there, right? Like the ones we know about are the ones that I mean, we kind of epitomize the ones that we do know about because there are so few of them too,
Right,
right? So
right.
I think this is just, and I love that you make it easy. Like making it easy is a less daunting. It's more likely you're going to take that next step.
Yes, definitely. And welcome to my world on the lack of women. I love telling the story of how, have you seen that bumper sticker, well behaved women rarely make history?
No, but I've heard this.
Seen
I
it?
have heard the saying though.
Or
Yeah.
there's t-shirts and there's all
Yeah.
kinds of stuff. Well, Laurel Thatcher Ulrich is a woman's historian, and she wrote that originally because she was looking for evidence of Puritan women, the good women that founded our country, and there wasn't any
Yeah.
because they washed clothes and went to church and did as they were supposed to do. And the next line after that, she says, they did not ask to be remembered.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a gut punch, it seems like a rallying cry, but it's originally was a real lament.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're in a position now to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have to get out of our comfort zone and share our messages and our stories, and because we want to be an impact for those that come after us.
Definitely. And I want to say it's kind of not really outside of your comfort zone if you're in Women's Speakers Association,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I did work with a family that would say, like, don't put that in there. Oh, and then we think this, but don't put that in there. I'm not I'm not out to tell your secrets, right? I
Yeah.
want you to capture your own story,
Exactly.
however you see it or however it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I think probably anybody and everybody watching has the capacity to record it at the very least.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. So, what are some of the ways that I can document and preserve my story then?
Well, one of the things I want to insist on is that although I feel strongly that women's history has been left out, we have been taught to keep track of ourselves in particular ways. So if you do have a CV or a resume, that is a great thing to start with.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a resume, maybe a resignation letter, if you have some correspondence or, some emails about your dreams about your business, maybe if you have a business coach that you talk to, or there are ways that it's easy to pull those things together. It's very simple. And I'm sure that you have a lot of documentation laying around your house. And one of the sort of side pluses of doing all this is getting all that paperwork organized and cataloged in a way that as new stuff comes in, you know right where to put it. So here's all the Women Speakers Association things that I've done. Here's all the business coaching I've had and what I've done with that. And here's all the mission work or the charity work or whatever that I've done. So there's a way that you can just say, okay, here's some more that goes right there. So, it's a great way to organize, which is hilarious. I'm not the most organized person in any other way, like laundry, clothes, kids' toys, whatever. but this one way. This is the only way.
I completely get that. But I love that idea. Like, just it's amazing what that organization will do just for, what's around you. But the fact that it actually is going to help you, record your history and be able to share that out with people, I think is just, an added bonus too.
Yes, yes. And I encourage people to also do a holistic collection. So maybe not just your speaking and your work, but
Okay.
your education, your background. I'm from farm people. I tell people all the time I'm from a long line of potato farmers in northern Maine. And that's impacted me. It's really shaped my parents and it's shaped me. And I say things to my kids that I hear like, oh, that's northern Maine. So that's 4 generations of a family with at least some strings still holding on. So maybe that has impacted the decisions I've made in my career, right? To be self-employed or whatever. So the more holistic you can get, I mean, anything is great and more is better.
Yeah. I love that. And I actually just hopping into the group again, I was able to pull it up, kept disappearing on me.
Excellent.
So, so Jennifer Darling has joined us. Deb's there. Deb says, happy to
Oh,
hear
hi,
you share
Deb.
how women can record their stories. Nancy Arvizu, working on Ancestry project, finding data, not stories of their life. Exactly. So there is that data, but there's no stories on
Right.
how that all happened, right?
And I do come up against that a lot in networking events where they go, oh, yeah, I do my ancestry. And I'm thinking, that's not really what I'm talking about, right? So
Right.
exactly what you said, Nancy. There's all the data, and it's a great place to start. But if you even have oral oral tales that have been passed down that helps flesh out the data. That's the only
Mhm.
way we know anything about the Underground Railroad is through oral history.
Yeah, true.
So they're all places to start.
I'm reading some more too. Gloria J. Coppola said, yes, I shared my story and publishing a book with women this month. Excited for everyone.
Nice.
Um, and Nancy says it's emotional, right? Doing this is really, really emotional.
Yes, it can be, definitely.
And Lori Ford says the first section of my book, really good. Uh, really good afterwards. Your interactive guide to self-care contains one chunk of my story. And that's, yeah, it's another place where you
Right.
can share your story is a sort of as a precursor to the information that you can, share with people. Like just having
Yes,
that, you're building relationships when they can find that connection with you, right?
definitely. And I'd say if you're in Women Speakers Association and you're speaking a lot, you probably are already telling your story. So
Mm-hmm.
to sit down and record it is a chance to flesh it out. Maybe, we tell our story with an impact in mind, usually when we're speaking. And to record your history is a chance to flesh that all out, like unintended consequences or side effects or, joy that, came 10 years later or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just, Tamara, yes, that you probably missed the beginning of this. Angela's making her way home from Thanksgiving and she's at a cafe because it's taken her, what day are we on now?
I don't even know what day it is. I just spent 2 nights with a friend in Lenox, Massachusetts, and I've been on the road for like 3 days trying to get to
Yeah.
Pittsburgh from Maine.
Yeah, so we thought we're just going to go ahead with this anyway and just bear with the noise because there's some great content in here. And we'll listen back to it afterwards. If we need to, we'll re-record and put that up on our website after. But we wanted to take that, I know people were wanting to really listen to what Angela had to say. And I know that like Wanda's saying, like, maybe this can be the one area in my life where I can be organized too. That's funny. Yes, I agree. And then Lori says, I'm super grateful to my mom who wrote her complete life story before she developed dementia. Oh, that makes my hair
Wow,
stand on end. That's beautiful.
that's very moving. I have worked with a family that the grandmother, it's 4 generations of Jews from New York City, and like the second generation down, the woman wrote just like 5 pages, but it made so much come together in their photographs.
Hmm.
So I think if your mom wrote a full-fledged autobiography. I don't know. I feel like you got to follow up with that.
Yeah.
No pressure, but that's an amazing gift. An
Wow.
amazing gift.
It is. Wow. Yeah. It's amazing. All right. Well, we're going to move on to I think it's your last question. So how does my story become part of history?
Well, there are a couple of ways. One is to pass it down through the family. Easy peasy, but make arrangements, right? Don't wait for the cleanup crew to decide if this box is worth saving and who they're going to give it to,
Mm.
right? And if you don't have kids or estranged from your family, that stuff happens. Find a friend. The other way to do it that seems a little more straightforward in terms of making history is to find a repository. And a repository could be a historical center or a library or a women's archive. So I'm sure that you can find it in your geographical area. There are always historical societies that do have a little archive in the back, or there are,
Can I just interrupt real quickly, Angela?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Deb's saying that maybe if you hold your microphone closer to your mouth, then
Is that better?
I think that's a little better.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
So there will be archives at your old alma mater if you went to college or tech school or a private school or high school even. Churches, community groups. There are lots of ways to sort of extend a collection by adding your story to it. And there are also lots of wonderful women's libraries and women's archives springing up. You know, the National Women's History Museum is under construction and development, so we don't have that yet. But there is, see, I made a little list here. There's the Schlesinger Library at Harvard, National Archives for Black Women's History in Washington, D.C., the Women's Library in London, or the Women in Leadership Archives in Chicago. That's a small sample. Please reach out to me if you feel like you have something you want to place, whether it's yours or your mom's story. I worked with a family recently who one of the aunties was the first woman ordained in their branch of, I can't remember which church, but we needed to find a special women's archive for her trailblazing work.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
I feel like the luckiest girl in the world.
With all the stories, hey?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna cut us short a little bit just because the noise seems to be picking up there. More people have come into the cafe. That's okay. But we're at the end for right now. Do you have some additional information for our listeners to access?
I do actually. If you have any interest at all in keeping your papers safe, so I have a tip sheet on how to store them and where to store them that will double or triple the length of your papers if you have papers in your home. And you can opt into that at it's a bit.ly link. So it's
Bit.ly? Yeah.
Yep, www.bit.ly/ all one word, family papers.
And I'll go plug that in.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. So that can be you yourself, or it can be, I do have a lot of people that reach out that have inherited things from their parents. So whatever you need, just papers. And I have a blog that you can jump onto at angelaltodd.com.
Okay, we'll put that in as well. Wonderful. And I know that what I'll ask you to do, Angela, is when you make it home safe and you get all organized.
You think I'm going to? I'm glad.
Yeah, right. It's gonna be fun. But when you get back, if you can just kind of come in and look at the video, and you'll see some questions and so forth in there. So there might be some questions that you can respond to, and that would be awesome.
Yeah. I'm a couple of hours from home, so if not tonight, I'll get it in the morning.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And thank you so much. And thank you everybody for bearing with us on, I guess you call it technical difficulty, but you know what, it's life and this is live video. And, we have conversations in louder situations than this.
Right.
So this is wonderful. And I wish you a very safe trip rest of your trip home.
Thank you. Thank
And
you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And if you have any
yes,
questions, please feel free to tag me in the comments, or you can email me at angela@angelaltodd.com.
wonderful. Yes, everybody have a wonderful upcoming holidays as well. We're going to see you in the new year. And I hope that you'll leave some comments along the way. Yes, welcome to technology. I mean, everything, right? Mother Nature, it's all got
I
things to
know.
address.
Family, traffic,
Family.
all of it.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. See you later.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're welcome.